Oh, hi, good afternoon, everybody. Yeah, I did have the pleasure of walking alongside Rajiv. He was walking with an injury. I wasn't. I was fortunate. I was just walking with heart failure. But the furthest I've walked before that was 5 kilometers. But fortunately, I managed to walk for the whole distance. It took me 11 and a half hours, and I had some issues at 25 miles, but I was determined to finish. When with Rajiv's support, I managed to do that. I'll give you a little bit of history on sort of my diagnosis. I was born with a hole in my heart, which developed into hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. I had my first ICD fitted in 2010, and that's been subsequently changed for new batteries, etc. In early 2019, I had a heavy cold, and I started to cough persistently. And I say persistently, this went on for around 6 months. I didn't do anything about it. It was a really challenging time. I'd just started a new role, a senior role at a local authority. So it was a bit of a challenge, not wanting to go off sick, etc. So I became more breathless, started to get tired. I had to move to a closer car park than the one I was originally using. And then in November 2019, I had to go into hospital because I was so bad I couldn't sleep at night. I was sleeping propped up on 3 pillows, etc. I went into A&E. I had to call an ambulance. I went into A&E, and whilst in A&E, a cardiologist came to see me at the local hospital and said that I needed to be admitted. I was admitted. I was told I would be admitted, but I stayed in A&E for around 7 hours. And whilst the cardiologist was talking to me, he asked me if I wanted to be treated at Blackburn or in Manchester, because I was under the genetics team at Manchester. And I said Manchester. And he said, oh, I've got to go in a minute, but before I go, when you go to Manchester, can you please tell them that you need to discuss having a heart transplant? And then he left the room. So I was absolutely devastated because I didn't have a clue that I needed a heart transplant. And when I saw Event Manchester, eventually it wasn't true. I didn't need a heart transplant. It didn't have all the information, but it was a shocking way to be diagnosed that I might need a heart transplant. Anyway, when I was discharged from hospital, I was told I'd be given a referral to the heart failure nurses. Unfortunately, this didn't happen. So I waited about 3 weeks, but I'm one of these people that's a bit persistent and a bit awkward. So I made the phone calls myself. I went through all the different telephone directories and found the number for the heart failure nurse. Unfortunately, they accepted me as a self-referral. And that was really the start of my recovery. Getting access to the heart failure nurse was really important because it's somebody that I could have regular contact with. I still, at this point, it was December when I saw the heart failure. I still hadn't been to see Manchester. I couldn't get an appointment to get in to see my cardiologist. I hadn't seen him for 5 years. So the heart failure nurse became sort of my key source to get access to information, psychological support, but also all the access to the medications that I needed. She was able to titrate me on every medication that I needed, alongside with my GP, who's been brilliant. And I'll talk a little bit more about him in the next session. So I think for me, the role of the heart failure nurse is really critical. And I think that, they can't be given enough credit for the work that they do. The other thing that she managed to arrange for me was access to cardiac rehab. This was a little bit disrupted, as you can imagine, with the pandemic that went on. But eventually I got to go to the hospital to see cardiac rehab team. They decided I was too fit by that stage because I'd started walking myself and getting out and about. But they referred me out to the community cardiac rehab team. So I managed to get access to that. I did about 2 weeks, and then we went into lockdown again. And then after we came out of the second lockdown, I managed to get onto the full-time program. So the initial program, phase 1, I think, is about 12 weeks. And then they don't discharge you at that point. They ask you if you want to continue. So I managed to get access to the phase 2, which is another 12 weeks. And that's the one I'm currently in. And even when this one finishes, I can potentially get access to another 9 months if I want to. So that's really a supportive way of getting myself. I like to say I live with heart failure rather than suffer from heart failure. I want to live as long as I can, as most people do. But I think it's really important that people see the connection between all of these. And I think the communication side of things is something that I would encourage anybody to look at and try and improve, because without that communication, it's really difficult to get access to all the support that I need as a patient. So I hope that's given you a little bit of a glimpse in a very short space of time, just in terms of my heart failure journey for the last 2 years.